Okay, think about it for a sec. That phone in your pocket, maybe the tablet you're using, your smartwatch, they're basically part of us now, right? Running so much of our lives. But honestly, how often do you really stop and think about what's actually powering it all? That little battery inside. Today, we're diving deep into something that's just, well, fundamental. The global market for consumer electronics batteries. Our mission. To really unpack the kind of surprising growth, figure out what's driving it, and look at these genuinely staggering market values projected, all based on some fascinating insights from the Global Consumer Electronics Batteries Market Forecast
Yeah,
source.
absolutely. And just to set the stage, when we talk about consumer electronics batteries, we're basically looking at those power sources, rechargeable or sometimes disposable, that fuel our personal devices. So
Get it?
smartphones, tablets, laptops, yeah, but also wearables, cameras, gaming consoles, you name it. They're kind of the silent workhorses making our digital world go round.
Okay, let's unpack that then. This market isn't just big, it feels incredibly dynamic. What's really fueling this huge demand? Why all the momentum?
It really boils down to a few key things happening all at once. First, just the relentless pace of innovation, and the sheer number of smart, portable gadgets flooding the market. Every year, new devices, more powerful devices, and they all need better, more efficient batteries.
Right.
Second, there's this huge shift towards wireless everything.
Hmm.
Think earbuds, smart speakers, all that stuff cutting the cord. That inherently needs reliable, portable power.
Makes sense.
And third, lithium-ion tech itself has gotten so much better. Performance is up, lifespans are longer, and crucially, the prices have come down. That drop in price really speeds up adoption, not just in, say, North America or Europe, but in developing markets too. It's sort of a perfect storm, really.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Those drivers make sense. But can you give us the big picture numbers, like the overall market size and where it's headed? Because the scale sounds kind of mind-boggling.
The figures are, yeah, they're pretty striking. They really show how embedded these things are. So the global market generated nearly $12 billion, $11,962.1 million to be precise back in
We're
2021.
almost 12 billion,
But
okay.
the trajectory is what's really astonishing. It's projected to basically double, hitting over $21.8 billion by 2025.
Wow. In just 4 years.
Exactly. And looking further out, say to 2033, it's expected to reach a staggering $72.5 billion.
72.5 billion.
That's right, which translates to a really robust compound annual growth rate,
All right.
a CAGR, of 16.2%.
16% growth year on year. That's huge. That indicates some fundamental shifts.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the global snapshot. A market growing, what, more than 6 times in just over a decade. Let's drill down a bit. What do the numbers tell us about North America's piece of this pie?
North America is definitely a major player, a very mature market too. It started around $3.4 billion in 2021. That's $3,397.25 million. Forecast to reach $6,082.7 million by 2025. And by 2033, it's expected to climb to $19.5 billion, so almost tripling from that 2025 number.
19.5 billion, and I assume the US is the bulk of that.
Oh, absolutely. The United States accounted for, let's see, 2,989.58 million in 2021. It's projected to be 5,303.66 million in 2025, and a massive $16.69 billion by 2033. Just huge adoption rates there.
Right.
But Canada and Mexico are growing strongly too. Canada from about $312.5 million in 2021 up to over $2.3 billion by 2033. And Mexico starting smaller at $95 million in 2021, but expected to reach nearly $450 million by 2033. So widespread growth across the continent.
Got it. And how does Europe stack up against that? Are we seeing a similar kind of boom?
Europe shows a very similar impressive growth curve. It generated nearly $3 billion in 2021, 2,990.53 million.
Okay, so a bit smaller than North America to
A
start.
little bit, yeah, but projected to reach $5.3 billion by 2025 and then surge to almost $17 billion, 16,962.8 million by 2033.
17 billion, so catching up significantly. Which countries are leading there?
Well, the big established economies, as you'd expect. Germany started at $526 million in 2021, projected to hit $2.9 billion by 2033. France, around $460 million in 2021, heading towards $2.66 billion. The UK, just over $400 million initially, aiming for $2.1 billion. But it's not just them. Italy, starting at $314 million, is projected over $1.8 billion. Russia, around $296 million, also heading towards $1.8 billion. Spain, about $248 million, looking at $1.5 billion. And then you've got, other strong players like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, Luxembourg, all showing really solid growth trajectories too, contributing to that overall European picture.
That's really widespread growth. Now, what's fascinating, as you mentioned, is the sheer scale you see in Asia Pacific. This region seems like the real powerhouse, right?
Absolutely. Asia Pacific is projected to be the largest and the most dynamic market by a significant margin. It was already the biggest back in 2021 at almost $3.8 billion, $3,792 million.
Okay.
But it's expected to just explode, really, reaching $7.07 billion by 2025 and then an astonishing $24.6 billion by 2033.
24.6 billion. That's huge. Way bigger than North America or Europe.
Exactly. That's roughly a 6.5 times increase from 2021. It's massive.
What's driving that level of growth?
It's overwhelmingly driven by giants like China and India. China started at $1.3 billion in 2021 and is projected to become an $8.3 billion market just on its own by 2033.
Wow.
In India, starting around $557 million, is set to reach nearly $4.5 billion. They're just massive populations, rising incomes, and incredible smartphone adoption rates are key.
Unbelievable numbers. What about other players there? Japan? Korea?
Yeah, Japan remains very significant, around $656 million in 2021, growing to nearly $4 billion, $3,913.08 million by 2033. South Korea also shows strong growth, alongside Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, and the broader Southeast Asia region, all contributing significantly to that massive APAC total.
Okay, truly the dominant region then. Now, beyond these sort of tier one players, what's happening in South America? What are the trends there?
South America's market, while smaller in absolute dollar terms compared to APAC or North America, is actually seeing incredibly strong growth in percentage terms. It was valued around $775 million in 2021.
Right.
That's projected to rise to $1.44 billion in 2025 and then reach almost $5 billion, $4,972.86 million by 2033.
So still very significant growth. Brazil leads, I imagine.
Correct. Brazil is the dominant force there. Started at about $312 million in 2021, expected to hit almost $2 billion by 2033. But you're also seeing rapid increases across the board. Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile, they're all set for multi-$100 million markets. It really reflects that increasing access to personal tech across the continent.
Interesting. Okay, lastly, let's touch on the Middle East and Africa. Often grouped together, but probably different stories. What kind of growth are we seeing there?
Yeah, distinct but both growing. In the Middle East, the market was around $455 million in 2021. $454.561 million. That's projected to hit $856 million in 2025 and then grow to just over $3 billion, $3,044.61 million by 2033.
$3 billion. And key players.
Saudi Arabia is a leader there, starting at $133 million, expected to grow to nearly $880 million by 2033. But also strong contributions from Turkey, the UAE, Egypt, Qatar. It's driven by increasing tech adoption and improving digital infrastructure.
Right. And Africa.
Africa's growth is also really compelling. Started from about $550 million in 2021, $552.651 million.
Okay.
Forecasted to rise to just over $1 billion, $1,022.42 million by 2025, and then reach almost $3.4 billion, $2,399.81 million by 2033.
Similar scale to the Middle East by 2033 then.
Pretty close, yeah. Nigeria really stands out as a major growth engine there. Started near $250 million in 2021, projected to hit almost $1.5 billion by 2033.
Wow.
South Africa is also a key contributor. It's really tied to rapid urbanization and, importantly, increased access to more affordable smart devices, which just directly fuels the demand for batteries.
Okay, so we've gone around the globe and seen this massive, widespread growth everywhere. What does this all mean for you, the listener, for our daily lives? Beyond just the, impressive numbers, what's the so what here?
Well, I think what's truly fascinating is that this isn't just about abstract market figures, right? It's really about the kind of fundamental plumbing of modern life. This incredible growth just underscores that these batteries aren't just components anymore. They are, quite literally, the lifeblood of the portable, connected world we all live in now.
Right, the enabler.
Exactly. It means every time you grab your phone, use your wireless earbuds, check your watch, you're tapping into this multi-billion-dollar ecosystem that's evolving at like breakneck speed. The market's path really just mirrors global tech adoption, our increasing reliance on having smart devices everywhere all the time, and that constant hunt for more power and smaller, lighter packages.
So the next time you pick up that phone or your tablet or whatever gadget, maybe take a second to think about that silent workhorse inside. It's powered by a market that's not just big, but exploding from nearly $12 billion just a few years back to a projected, $72.5 billion by 2033. We've seen the incredible scale, that robust growth driven by nonstop innovation and going wireless, and just how global this really is. Every continent.
Yeah, it's truly global. And maybe a final thought to leave you with this incredible surge in demand, our ever increasing dependence on these tiny powerhouses. It does raise an important question. What other innovations in power might we see coming down the line? And maybe more critically, what challenges around energy, resources, maybe sustainability might pop up as this market just keeps expanding exponentially? Something to think about.
Okay, think about your day so far. You probably reach for your smartphone pretty much first thing,
Hmm.
maybe popped in your wireless earbuds, glanced at your smartwatch. Our lives are just, well, packed with these portable devices, aren't they?
Totally saturated.
Yeah. But how often do you actually stop and think about what's powering all that? The little engine humming away inside?
Probably not very often, I'd guess.
Right. Not often enough.
Exactly. And that's precisely why our deep dive today is into the consumer electronics batteries market. It's such a key sector.
Foundational, really.
Yeah, foundational. And it's evolving so fast because, well, we just depend more and more on having power wherever we go. It's pushing things forward like crazy.
So our mission today essentially is to unpack what's really shaping this market. We want to look at, what's driving this huge growth we're seeing and also some of the maybe surprising challenges lurking under the surface.
Yeah, there are definitely a few of those.
And of course, the really cool cutting edge innovations changing the whole game. We've basically pulled together the most important stuff from recent market analysis to, give you the key insight.
Get you up to speed quickly.
Exactly. Let's get into it.
Okay.
So let's set the scene first. We're seeing just this massive surge in demand for, well, pretty much all portable electronics.
Everything, yeah.
Your smartphone, tablet, laptop, the obvious ones, but also like wireless earbuds, smartwatches, even those fancy gaming accessories.
Right.
And the one thing, the absolute one thing everyone expects now,
All-day battery life.
all-day performance and fast charging. It's just non-negotiable, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
Spot on. And when you connect that demand to how we're actually using the devices, it makes perfect sense.
How so?
But think about mobile gaming. It's
Yeah.
just exploded, right?
Huge.
And the big shift to remote work setups everywhere, both of those things really crank up the need for battery innovation because they just consume so much more power throughout the day.
Right, constantly draining it.
Constantly. So you need better, more efficient batteries just to keep up.
Okay, so given that intense demand, that constantly evolving need, what's the main technology making it all possible right now? What's the workhorse under the hood?
It's still overwhelmingly lithium-ion. Li-ion batteries just dominate this space.
Why is that? What makes them so dominant?
It boils down to a few things. Really good energy density, packing a lot of power into a small space. Lower self-discharge rates, meaning they hold their charge well when not in use.
Okay.
And, crucially, that fast charging potential we were just talking about.
Right.
But what's really impressive isn't just that they dominate, it's the constant improvement within that Li-ion tech. Like, the miniaturization is incredible.
Yeah, getting smaller and smaller.
Exactly. Batteries small enough for super thin phones or even flexible enough for foldable devices.
Wow.
And then looking forward, you've got things like solid-state batteries, flexible batteries becoming, potentially mainstream for wearables and hearables.
So who's leading that R&D push?
You've got the big players like Samsung SDI, LG Energy Solution, Panasonic. They're really pushing hard on improving safety, making batteries last longer the life cycle, and boosting power output.
Okay.
And a really critical piece of this, especially as things get smaller, are the battery management systems, the BMS.
BMS, right. Tell us a bit more about that. Why is that so key with miniaturization?
So think of the BMS as like the battery's brain, or maybe its bodyguard.
Okay, I like that.
It's constantly watching things like temperature, voltage, the charging speed, making sure those tiny, powerful batteries in, say, your watch, don't overheat or wear out too quickly.
Ah, so it's the safety and longevity controller.
Precisely. Without these really smart BMS systems, honestly, the kind of extreme miniaturization we're seeing wouldn't really be safe or practical for everyday stuff.
That makes a lot of sense. I hadn't quite grasped how vital that part was. So, okay, it's not just about what the devices need from the batteries, but batteries don't exist in a vacuum, right? What about the bigger picture? Things like environmental concerns, regulations. How are those forcing changes in battery development?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting, actually. You've got energy efficiency standards coming from like the U.S. Department of Energy, directives from the EU,
Mhm.
and these global ESG benchmarks, environmental, social governance standards that companies are increasingly judged on.
Right, those are everywhere now.
They really are. And they're genuinely pushing battery makers towards, well, smarter, greener solutions.
Like what kind of things? Can you give examples?
Sure. We're seeing things like eco-conscious charging systems, manufacturers using more recyclable materials in the batteries themselves, even the beginnings of modular battery designs.
Modulars are like swappable.
Potentially, yeah, or at least easier to replace or recycle. And this isn't just box ticking for regulations. It seems to genuinely connect with consumers who care about sustainability.
Especially in certain regions.
Yeah, particularly in places like Europe and North America, where that sort of green consumerism is really picking up steam. Tech companies see it too.
Okay, so that's the positive pressure.
Mhm.
But it sounds like progress yet. There must be hurdles, right? It can't all be smooth sailing.
Oh, definitely not.
If we're pushing for smaller, more powerful batteries all the time, safety has to be a huge concern, doesn't it? We've all heard stories, high-profile recalls.
Absolutely. Overheating, leakage, even fire risks. Those incidents, while thankfully rare overall, have major consequences.
Like what?
What leads to a much, much sharper focus on compliance testing, quality control, building in more sophisticated thermal management systems.
Which all sounds good, but
But it all adds cost, and it adds time, extends the time to market for new products. It's a really tricky balance to strike between innovation, cost, and safety.
and safety isn't the only hurdle, is it? What about the actual stuff these batteries are made of? Raw materials, is that a bottleneck?
A huge one, undeniably. You've got the fluctuating prices of key materials like lithium, cobalt, nickel.
The critical ones.
Exactly. And the supply of those is often tangled up in geopolitical tensions, trade restrictions, and sometimes very real ethical concerns about mining practices in certain regions.
Right, the human cost too.
Yeah. So all of that makes it incredibly difficult for manufacturers to, reliably scale up production and keep costs stable. It's a constant challenge.
And speaking of challenges, there's kind of an elephant in the room for all these tiny electronics, isn't there? What happens to the batteries when the device is, well, dead?
Yeah, end of life. That brings us to a really crucial point. The lack of good, widespread recycling infrastructure for these small format batteries is a massive issue.
You mean for things like earbuds or watches?
Exactly. Batteries from your Bluetooth earphones, your smartwatch, even your TV remote. Often they just end up in landfills.
Why? Is it too hard to collect them?
It's partly collection, partly the economics and complexity of extracting the valuable materials safely from such small integrated units. There just aren't enough dedicated systems.
And the impact of that is?
It's twofold, really. First, it's an environmental hazard, obviously.
Mm.
These things contain materials you don't want leaching into the ground.
Right.
Second, it's a huge waste. It limits the circular reuse of valuable stuff like lithium and cobalt. We just keep having to mine more new material instead of recovering what's already out there.
Which puts pressure back on manufacturers.
Absolutely. Pressure to create take-back programs or maybe even explore different ownership models like battery as a service, where they retain ownership and responsibility for the battery's life cycle.
Okay, so lots of challenges, but it's not all doom and gloom, right?
Uh-huh.
Let's shift focus a bit. What about the innovations, the emerging trends that are actually offering solutions and pushing boundaries? Let's start with charging. That affects everyone.
Definitely. The move towards USB-C as a standard and just the general rise of rapid charging tech has totally changed consumer expectations.
It's amazing how fast phones charge now.
Isn't it? It's common to see devices with 20W, 40W, even 65W fast charging. It's almost expected now.
So how does that impact the battery itself?
Well, it forces battery developers to get smarter. They have to integrate better thermal regulation right into the battery design to handle that heat. They need to optimize the charge-discharge cycles so fast charging doesn't kill the battery's lifespan too quickly. And develop battery chemistries that are just more efficient at handling that rapid power delivery. Basically, the battery tech has to keep pace with the charging tech.
Makes sense. Now, beyond smartphones, where else are we seeing significant growth demanding new battery approaches?
Wearables and hearables are huge growth areas. Think smartwatches, fitness trackers, wireless earbuds.
Right, the really small stuff.
Exactly. And that really pushes innovation in what we call microbattery technologies. Things like tiny coin cells or even printed batteries that can be sort of seamlessly built into the structure of these very compact, lightweight devices.
Printed batteries, like actually printed.
Yeah, it's an emerging tech. Thin, flexible, can be made in custom shapes. These tiny power sources are absolutely vital if we want to keep making wearable tech smaller, lighter, and more comfortable.
That's fascinating. And this kind of leads to another really interesting development, doesn't it? Something that connects back to sustainability.
It does. What's really exciting, I think, is the rise of modular and replaceable battery designs,
We mentioned modular earlier. Where are we seeing this most?
especially in electronics that drain batteries quickly. Think drones, handheld gaming consoles, action cameras.
Things you use intensely for short bursts.
Right. Having a replaceable battery unit doesn't just extend the product's lifespan because you can swap out a worn battery.
Instead of ditching the whole device.
Exactly. It strongly supports that whole circular economy idea. Consumers can just swap batteries, maybe carry spares. It's becoming a real selling point, a sustainability-driven differentiator for brands.
That feels like a really positive direction. Okay, so finally, let's touch quickly on the competitive landscape. Who are the main players fighting it out in this market?
It's a really interesting mix, actually. You've got your long-established giants, the big battery makers like Panasonic, Samsung SDI, LG Energy Solution, Murata Manufacturing. They tend to dominate the high-end lithium-ion market for phones, laptops, etc.
Okay.
Then you have brands maybe more familiar from, supermarket aisles, Energizer, Duracell, Maxell. They're still very strong in the traditional alkaline batteries, coin cells, that sort of thing.
Right. Any newcomers shaking things up?
Definitely. Keep an eye on some up-and-coming players. Companies like EVE Energy, maybe Poly Plus. They're often pushing the boundaries in more niche areas like specialized chemistries or those next-gen solid-state battery formats we talked about.
So what determines who wins? What's the competition based on?
It's a complex mix. At the end of the day, it hinges on things like energy density, how much power per size or weight, form factor adaptability, can you make it fit the latest weirdly shaped gadget,
Sure.
safety, obviously, life cycle, how many times can you charge it before it degrades, and increasingly environmental compliance and sustainability credentials.
Got it. A lot of factors at play.
A whole bunch.
So wrapping this up then, for you, our listener, the key takeaways from this deep dive should be pretty clear. Batteries. They aren't just boring components. They are absolutely vital to our modern digital lives.
Couldn't live without them.
Right, and there's incredible innovation happening constantly in this space. But at the same time, there are these significant hurdles, safety, supply chains, sustainability that the whole industry is wrestling with right now. It's just really fascinating once you start understanding the engine powering it all.
Yeah, it really is. And maybe this leaves us with a final thought or perhaps a question. What will the battery of the future actually look like?
Beyond just more power.
Exactly. Not just about power density, but how will it integrate more seamlessly with our devices? How will it interact with our environment?
Yeah.
And maybe most importantly, how will it line up with what you expect for a truly sustainable digital life?
Something to think about.
Definitely. We'd encourage you to just consider, the personal impact of all these shifts at tech, the environmental pressures on how you use your own devices, and maybe the choices you make next time you upgrade.